Hey friends, I cannot wait for you to hear today's episode. I sat down with Melissa Hampton, a certified financial advisor, single mom of two, and one of the most grounded and resilient women I've ever met. Melissa has built a successful career helping families and business owners plan for the future, but it was a personal crisis that completely shifted the way she approached life, work, and motherhood. In 2022, her then 7-year-old son felt critically ill and was in the ICU for 4 months. Life came to a screeching halt. Melissa went from running full speed on the hamster wheel to sitting still at her son's bedside, praying for a miracle. And when that miracle came, she didn't go back to the hustle. She built a new life, one rooted in faith, freedom, and intention. We talk about everything from forgiveness to redefining success, from trading busyness for peace to how she doubled her time with her kids and her income. If you've ever found yourself caught between striving and surviving, wondering if it's possible to do less but do it better, this episode will speak to you so deeply. Melissa's story is powerful, emotional, and full of wisdom. She reminds us that sometimes the darkest moments in life can be our biggest turning points, and that we get to choose what happens next. All right, so let's dive into my conversation with Melissa Hampton. All right. Hi, Melissa. Welcome to the Mom Entum podcast. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Hey Tanya, yeah, thanks for having me. You have such amazing topics for women, and I'm just excited to be a part of it. Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you on. I can't wait to just jump right in today. So before this, I introduced you, I read your bio, but I want to hear from your point of view. Please tell us your story, including, I know you're a mom, so how many kids you have and where you live and what do you do today?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're jumping right in. I have two kids. So I have an almost 14-year-old daughter and I have a 10-year-old son. And like most moms, I've completely surrounded everything I do, with what works best for them. So I think that that journey is pretty relatable to other moms.
Hmm.
Um, Currently, I'm a certified financial planner, more so known as a financial advisor, and I own my own firm. So that's been a pretty big journey to get there, especially starting a new career when my kids were so young. But yep, I'm a single mom. My kids are my everything. I love what I do, and we're just living the best life.
Okay, so did you go back to school to become a financial planner when after you had your kids then?
Yeah,
Oh.
so I went through divorce about 10 years ago. So when my son was a baby, and it kind of just
Oh.
completely turned everything, on its head as far as that goes, starting over financially and with a career because I had opened businesses and everything else and managed those. So I left my career, my house, and everything and started over with very little. So went to work as an accountant for our university, and I was recruited by a major corporate firm to become a financial advisor. I had also just got my master's in business education because I thought, hey, I want to be a teacher. It's the best schedule for my kids.
Yeah.
But God had different plans, and I went this advising journey direction instead. And so they recruited me, and that's when what I say, I jumped on the hamster wheel, right? Because it was like, I mean, do or die at that point is how I felt. And so the way that that job worked was, you're paid very little, so you have to go bigger, more all the time in order to even pay my bills.
So you're
So
trading time for money, more time and effort
yeah,
in
yeah,
order.
absolutely. Yep, so that was almost 7 years ago. So my kids were really young, 3 and 6.
Mm.
And I remember asking someone like, gosh, I don't know if this is the right time to do that when my kids are so young. And they said, nope, do it now because they're going to need you more later. And that has actually become very true. Now, having a teenage daughter, I'm finding that she surprises me every day. And I do need more time for her and for my son as they have more activities and are busier. But yes, so that's how the career started, trading time for money. I was on the hamster wheel, doing very well because I'm very like goal oriented, driven. If there's a competition, I'm going to win it type of thing. And that's how the corporation was set up for success. So I fell right into that. I've shared a little bit just about like what happened in 2022 when I was about 5 years, 4 years into that journey. And all of a sudden, that hamster wheel stopped immediately when my son got sick unexpectedly. And we were life flighted to Omaha, Nebraska, and spent 4 months in the ICU. So literally, we went from go, 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 like my vision of what success, my current vision of what success was like, this is great. We're doing well, to life is stopping completely and it's time to reevaluate here. So that's when I really
So,
made the change.
so yeah, can you get into that a little bit more
Yeah.
deeper? Like how old was he? Like you mentioned he was sick. What was he sick with? What happened? Like tell us about the
Yeah,
day that
sure.
when
Yeah,
you
so it
knew.
was 2022 Good Friday. He had had a tummy ache all week. Later, we would have found out that he had rotavirus. So lots of kids have rotavirus.
Yeah.
It's, flu-like symptoms, tummy ache, fluid retention, that type of thing. They assumed it was his appendix, so they took out his appendix, and then that just exacerbated his whole symptoms. Going into surgery, he fell septic on Easter Sunday, and then we were rushed to another local hospital, and then life flighted the following day. So he fell into a coma. They didn't know what was going on. We were tested for everything. We all went through genetic testing. I mean, he was scanned for anything you can think of, like Ebola virus, like any weird thing out there. And what they just found that his body had just shut down and the fluid retention was trying to protect his organs, which was an amazing process, really, to see his body work through that. So ultimately, his internal organs um, were declared gone. So he was kept open and washed out every other day in the ICU. And we were in that state for about 6 weeks until, hospice care said there's nothing we can do. And that was breaking point. If we're getting into Jesus, breaking point, the pitfalls of life, this is the part of that story.
Oh
So,
my gosh. So they said that there's nothing we can do, like they
mhm,
said he was
mhm.
gonna die.
Right. Yep. And he was in a coma. He was on all life support besides an echo, so his heart was still beating, on its own. But one day they said, you need to say goodbye because he is
Oh,
the sickest child that we have going into our ICU. And I couldn't do it. I mean, it's looking
no.
back on it, it's like a Lifetime movie, like where you see the mom like I wouldn't let go of his bed, like as they're trying to pull him out of the room and take him to surgery. And that up to that point, what I realized was like, I was just pushing back. I was angry. I was angry at the people for making mistakes. I was angry at God. Like, why are you doing this to me? I was just
Yeah.
angry and
Mhm.
trying to control anything that I could still control. And that point was the point where I said, like, okay, like this is I guess in your hands. There was no other choice. There's nothing I could do. There's nothing on this world that anyone could do. So
Mhm.
I had to switch my thinking from like fear and anger to just hope and prayer that, something was going to turn around, and it was out of my hands at that point. So I called my priest. We had, a big, I mean, literally come to Jesus while he was in surgery, and all the questions like, why is this happening to us? Like, what did I
Yeah.
do to deserve this? What did he do to deserve this? Like, choose me instead. And he said, Melissa, this isn't God. God doesn't punish you for things,
Yeah.
mistakes happen in life, and God gives you the opportunity to move forward and make the choice what the next move is going to look like, what you're going to do with the situation. So I went back to the room, and I laid with Kellen, and I told him, if you can't do it anymore, then go be with Jesus,
Mm.
and go be his warrior. And that was me giving up control, which is the hardest moment. Like I can
Yeah.
banter
I-
this all day long, but coming to that point is still a super hard part of the story. But it changed our lives forever, obviously. And he ended up waking up from his coma, and somehow his organs started to pink up one tiny little pinprick at a time. And they have no reason why. There's no medical reasoning why he came back from that. And
Wow.
so sitting there, I had nothing to do but pray and
Yeah.
evaluate my life and think about like what's really important, because to be honest, I didn't care about anything else at that point. Like I didn't care
But your
about work, I
son's
didn't care
life.
about money. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't care about anything, just spending as much time as I could with him. Um, so we made a lot of changes in life. I homeschooled him when we got home. He eventually did go back to school, but I gave away half of my book right away, and then started making plans to change companies, go independent, and have control over what my time looked like, how I could identify what success looked like, which is really the freedom to spend with my kids and help people in my own terms. So that's how it came full circle. There's been a lot of healing, and I never have the answers all figured out. Every day there's something new that I think I'm learning from that experience, or from owning my own business, or helping people with their own finances. Um, so I'm very well aware that I will forever be a student in all of those areas.
Oh my gosh. I can't even believe that story. Like, how horrific. And I'm so happy for you that everything turned out okay. And I
Yeah.
so believe in that, like the power of faith.
Hmm.
And it's just so amazing that after you let go of having to control and you just put it in the hands of God, that
Hmm.
he miraculously healed. And I have so many examples of things like that happening in my life. Like
Yeah.
I had my own traumatic experience where I almost died from a really bad miscarriage. I was like bleeding to death.
Oh, wow.
And I only had 2 kids at the time. Now I have 3. But yeah, it unfortunately sometimes takes experiences like that
Hmm.
to wake us up and
Yep.
snap us out of the slumber that we're in,
Yeah,
and, yeah,
absolutely.
just wake us up to what's important, because that's what happened to me, and it just makes me think of my unfortunately, a family here where I live, a little boy that went to school with my oldest daughter. They did not have, um, a happy ending like you did, but
Hmm.
they just lost their 9-year-old son, and
Oh my goodness.
it was it's horrible.
Hmm.
Yeah, I talked about it on the podcast, like, about a month ago, because it was just so, like, it just shook our world. Yeah,
Hmm.
he ended up having meningitis, like, he, on Thursday was sent home from school with a really bad headache, and literally 2 days later, uh, he was brain dead. It was
Yeah.
meningitis, and I was, like, praying too for him when I found out about it, 'cause it all happened very fast, and I heard that, like, they were gonna take him off of life support on Monday. Well, he started with a headache on Thursday, so I'm like,
Yeah.
just like
It
praying, like,
happens so
you know,
fast. Yeah.
yeah, it's just crazy. But
Yeah.
and unfortunately, his story did not have a happy ending, and we'll never know.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Why?
yeah,
Yeah. I think that like I'm very aware of exactly what you just said. Like I can speak about this and tell people reevaluate your lives, give it up to God, all of these things because I still have my son.
yeah,
The other scenario is very hard I can't imagine because I'm not there, but hard to understand that you may not see the silver lining that has come from that event, but I know like even from Kellen's story, a lot of people dusted off their Bibles. A relative told me that it saved her marriage. Um,
wow,
so like it wasn't that little boy's burden to carry for those people
yeah.
to change their lives, but because of that, there will be lives changed.
Oh,
And
when
I
you
think
said
that's
that,
really
yeah,
hard.
I know it's so hard, and like I just think about his mom often. But yeah, like, because it even affected our life, and we don't even know this boy. Like my it just brings me to tears every time. But a friend of mine, she's neighbors with them. Um, I don't even know where I was going with this, but yeah, like I mean, we don't know them, but it has affected me, and it just like it was a
Hmm.
reminder of what is important. Like, where's
Yep,
my focus? Where's my attention going right now? Like,
right.
reevaluate, like, what is important? Like, there
Exactly.
really is nothing more important than my family, my kids, and my time.
Yep, yep. No, 100%. And somewhere along the lines, I mean, I think we're in the generation where we were taught like you do more, you do harder,
Yes,
like
yeah.
everything is bigger and better. And like I think finally maybe our world is stopping a little bit. Everyone's hitting pause to realize how can we be really effective and do less? Like that's my goal.
Mm,
Like how
yeah.
can I still serve my clients and provide for my kids, but do less and do it more efficiently and do it
Yes.
with more quality and intention,
Mhm.
and then live my life outside of that. Um, but I hope, like, maybe it's just because of the people I'm surrounded with who are feeling this, but all the noise, all the pressure, the dual income households, the single parenthood, like, it all just really, I think, has come to our a head in our world to bring us to the attention that like you can't do that. Like it's you can't keep living to the max. Like you have to have this padding to live your life and to take care of yourself and to take care of your family. Because
Mhm.
yes, you never know, but there's always something in the background that's being sacrificed. During those
Mhm.
years that I had to push and I had to hustle. Like I was so sick all the time. My kids were in daycare before and after work. Like there were sacrifices that were made, and that's not okay for me anymore. It's just not negotiable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. Well,
So, yeah, I think that like a lot of your audience is women. I think that they
mhm.
can take I think what I've really learned, one of your questions that I read through was like, what have you had to unlearn? And that's the
Yeah.
definition of success, like to me, success was making a lot of money, being super busy, having a ton of clients. Like, no, that's not success for me anymore. It's like freedom,
Mhm.
like financial freedom, time freedom, to do what I want with my kids when I want to. Um, and I think women need to hear that because
Mhm.
none of our situations are the same. And
No.
you can tell, like, in your soul and in your core, if you are pushing against what your like true belief system is, if that makes sense. Like, if it just doesn't feel,
Yes.
it just feels icky, right?
Yes, it
And
just feels like something's off.
yeah, yep.
Mhm.
So, like, as women, we need to reevaluate like what our own success is and not care about what other people think because I mean, they're always going to be talking, they're always going to be watching, but like
Right.
it only matters to you. That's it. It only
Mhm.
matters to you and your kids and your family. Um, so I think that's the biggest thing that I had to unlearn during all of that as a mom. And as a woman.
Was
So,
your definition of success, and where is that
yep.
even coming from? Is it coming from my soul, like what I truly believe, or is it what I've been programmed to believe? Is it like the influence of just how I was
Yeah.
brought up and just culture?
Yep. Yeah. And you might need therapy to evaluate that. I have.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
might, you definitely need more quiet time to yourself
Yes.
to evaluate what that is
See?
because we don't get
Yeah.
that. But
That
your body knows, and it may be how you
mhm.
were raised. I was raised very simply in a huge family with a lot of support and pretty religious based. So yeah, I tend to go back to that. Like me buying a giant multi-million dollar house that I don't need, that doesn't feel good to me,
Mhm.
because of how
Yeah.
I was raised. Um, so I think it does a lot of that does come back to your upbringing and your core values.
Mhm. I
Hmm.
love that. Next, I want to talk about forgiveness because it was something that you had mentioned, that you learned a lifetime of knowledge about Jesus and forgiveness through
Hmm.
your most challenging moments, this near death experience with your son and the divorce. So, can you just share what you've learned and then how it's impacted your life?
Yeah. Yeah, so forgiveness and acceptance. Like let's just take his dad for example, it's not a good situation that we left. And then here we are with a son who's really sick. And during that time, like I had to accept him for who he was, seeing him in a different atmosphere and accepting him for who he is and moving on and forgiving him for things that had happened. That was pretty healing during that time. The people who did make mistakes during this medical journey with Kellen, you never know what they were experiencing. It was Easter. It was Easter weekend. The surgeon was in a hurry. Thank God another pediatrician came in and told me to get the hell out of here. Like literally in the waiting room, she told me
Mhm.
this.
Really?
Um, the nurses were really young. Like, I think
Um,
about how hard of an experience that was for them. I hope that they're still, practicing because we need them. And
yeah, for
I
sure.
know that like all of the medical professionals that came into contact with Kellen during those 4 months will forever practice differently because
Yes.
they also went from being super scared and not knowing what was going on. Like we're in the middle of the night all Googling on our phones. Like that's how
Mhm.
unknown the situation was to, we're standing in the morning rounds with a whole hall full of specialists and they don't know what to do. And I'm telling them, like, it's okay if you don't know what to do, do what you can today. Just know that
Yeah.
God is working through your hands.
Yes, I
So,
love that. That's so beautiful. So beautifully said.
yeah, I think that we have to give people grace and
Grace. Yes.
accepting and forgiving doesn't mean forgetting because
Yes.
remembering like protects your heart and protects you from getting in those situations again. But it
Mhm.
does like it serves no one any purpose to hold that anger and to hold that blame.
No. And it
Um,
hurts you when you can't forget,
yes.
like, I think most people have heard that, like, forgiveness is for you, and I try to teach my daughter
Hmm.
this because her you have a son and a daughter, did you say? Did
Yes.
they fight as much as my kids do? Well,
Oh,
maybe not
sure.
because 'cause they're
Yeah,
older, but,
one minute they love
ugh,
each other, one minute they're yelling at each other. Yeah.
but I'm always trying to tell, like, forgive, like, it's for you, it's not for the other
Yeah.
person, but it's hard to
Yep.
explain to a seven-year-old.
It is really hard. And like once you understand that, like holding on to that anger is like continuing to give that person, maybe in bad
Power.
situations, like that person that power over you and you
Yeah,
release that and they're gone. It's just such a healing
yeah.
process.
And
Um
it's not
eh,
easy to do, and it doesn't mean you have to
no,
trust the person either.
no,
Let I
no.
just add
That's why,
that.
yeah, don't forget, don't be a pushover, but in harmful situations or ugly situations, like yes, forgiveness is key.
Ugh,
Yeah. And
that-
the acceptance goes into that because like you never know what someone's experience is. They may not even have the knowledge to treat you a certain way. They may not have the
right.
education to provide for your child. Like you just yes, the grace, acceptance, forgiveness.
Yeah, and you don't know what they're going through and just like
Hmm.
the struggles in their own mind, their own internal being,
Exactly.
what struggles they're going through. We you never know.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
how has this like forgiveness impacted your life? Like how do you feel like now versus like before?
Yeah. I think I lived like every day, like, hey, life is great despite blah, 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 blah. Like I held on to all of those bad things or maybe not so great people because
Yeah.
like I blamed them for me having to start over for like
Oh,
whatever the situation may
the
be.
blame. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, nope, accept it and move on. And now I just stop at, hey, life is great. Like it doesn't matter despite anything else. Like that was in the past. Um, so it just allows you to move forward with more positivity and it is a big weight off your shoulders. And it's so funny that like when I realized that I needed to forgive all these people, God's like, oh, you can handle more, right? Like here's some more. Like you will be surprised at how many times you have to do this in your life. Um, and it's hardship and it's just life. It's not bad luck. Like life is hard. You just experience
Mhm.
hard things and you learn how to move past them.
That's so funny because that was gonna be my next question, like regarding forgiveness. Like, I was gonna ask, are you ever challenged, like you forgive a person, but then like maybe they do something or say something, or even just like in your own head, like you just remember something that they said or did, or maybe you're just like, oh, do you ever like overthink something that they
Hmm.
said or did and then have to like, do you ever struggle
Oh
um,
yeah.
with the forgiveness? Like, you know that you should, you know that
Every
like you
day.
want, okay, yeah, because I struggle,
Yeah.
I do the same thing.
Every single day. Like I've mentioned this before, the Eat, Pray, Love. If you haven't watched that movie, you should watch it because
You know, I
mm,
haven't, I can't believe it. Like,
oh
I
my
know it's
gosh.
like an
Yeah.
iconic movie, and I've not read the book or watched the movie. I need to.
Well, what a part of it. So like for me, like when things pop into my mind, I try and think of ways to get them out. Like if it's a doubt, if it's anger, whatever it is, like I try and like have the counter thought ready to go.
Mm,
And that's
so good.
journaling, it's just practice, writing things down, whatever helps you to do that. But so in Eat, Pray, Love, she's like, just send them light, like that person obviously they did something or heard something or there was a mistake made for a reason just like you're thinking about anger and what they did instead just be like okay God go ahead and send them light today and I'm going to like take
Mm,
that burden off of my shoulders to try and handle this emotion. You can go ahead and handle that and send them light for me. And that's such a
mm,
simple thing to do but it like
mm,
redirects your mind to being positive. And
mhm.
you always hear like, we'll just pray for them. And that's the hardest thing to do. Why would I pray for someone
Yeah,
that's hurt me? Well, because they
yes.
obviously need help, you know,
Mhm.
and hopefully so that it's not it doesn't happen to the next person and the next person. So it's
I can,
daily, Tanya, like
yeah,
every
I
single
can.
day.
Well, you're
Uh-huh.
saying this, and I can so relate. Even like there's somebody in our lives right now, and it's just, and there was a podcast episode that I listened to years ago, like when I first started listening to podcasts, like after that whole experience, and it was the 3 and 30 podcast for moms, and she talked about, I think the title of the podcast was "Loving Someone When It's Hard."
Yeah.
And it is
Yes.
it is, it's all about this, like, praying for people that you just, like,
Mm-hmm.
don't wanna pray for, but yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
does help. It helps with the forgiveness, and it helps with, because it doesn't serve you, the person,
Right.
to keep thinking about it and just spiraling in your head
Yes.
all of the just creating looking for evidence of all of the things that prove
Yeah.
that this
Who
person has
cares?
is a bad person, it just doesn't serve
Yeah.
any purpose at all, but I love
No.
that just praying for God to shed his light on them.
Right. Send some light. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. And yeah, with what you were saying, serving you. Oh, it doesn't. And it's like another self-protection thing. Like, right, if you
Mm,
can just think of things instead of spiraling, like you said, if you can, once that thought comes into your mind, like, what can I think of or do to get that out and move on to positivity? So
yeah,
it's a
I love that, and that could be
self-preservation thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that could be step 1, just send them light.
Yep.
On to the
Yep.
next.
Take a
Okay,
big breath.
yes. Ugh. So
Yeah.
you mentioned I really wanna get into this before because I know that you're gonna have to go.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
an appointment after this, but I really wanna get into before you go. You mentioned
Hmm.
doubling your time with your kids
Hmm.
while doubling your income, and I know that every mom is
Hmm.
wondering, "How is this possible, and how
Yeah.
did you do it?"
Yeah. Yep. So I don't think I did it right because, like, talking about the hustle. So I started the hustle with a major corporation. Well, when you're an advisor in a major corporation, like, I paid 63% of my income back to that corporation, right? And I was bonused for more and more and more. So that's what I did. When I made the switch over to being independent, yes, now I'm a business owner. Yes, now I have all of my expenses, but I keep my income. And
Mhm.
so that may not apply to all of the moms, but what I will say is when you're making a life change to exchange time for money or reverse, focus on the quality instead of the quantity. And that's really hard because, like, let's say there's a lot of coaches, like there's a lot of moms that are coaches. So you're like, gosh, I could coach this gal. I could coach 20 gals for $100. Great.
Mhm.
Well, what if you just coached one gal really good for 2,000 bucks? You know?
Mm. Mhm.
So like increasing the quality of the work that you do, which will in turn migrate all of these people to you that are also quality and looking for those quality services. And that's the way that I operate my business now. I work with people who need and want my help above and beyond what they can do with themselves at E-Trade, right? Like they need my expertise and my strategies. So I'm working with a very small number of people at a higher quality level that are willing to pay me to do that, versus trying to work with the masses. And killing myself for it, with
Right.
trading my time to do that. And really, with some things that they just need some simple education on and they could do themselves. So, does that maybe help, like, for your audience to think about, hey, what am I doing? Just 10x the quality in order to decrease the amount of time that you're spending on that job.
Okay, I love that. And
Yeah.
maybe even for those of you listening, if you can't really wrap your head around that, like what that would look like in your life, I would just say, um, to schedule and set aside some quiet time to
Yeah.
actually answer that question. What would quality over quantity look like in my
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, exactly. And like, what does your ideal life look like? So if you're
Yeah.
working 10 hours a day now, what could you get done in 5 hours a day? And that might mean working with fewer clients at a higher rate, um, for half the time,
Mhm,
versus 10
mhm.
hours a day with double the amount and lower paying clients or lower ticket offers. I'm trying to make it relatable to what most women are probably doing.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also aware, like, there are, like, I worked a 7 to 5 job. I was wrapping my kids up in a blizzard at 6 in the morning to go to daycare. Like, I get that there are
Mm,
times in your life where you need to hustle, but you
mhm.
can get out of that. And there are people like us that are totally willing to visit with you about how you can get out of that, how you can move past that, and create a different life.
It's possible.
Yep, it's
And you were an
possible.
example that it is possible, and don't tell yourself that you don't know, like, you can figure it out.
Yep. Everything's figure outable. Yep.
Yes. Yes, Marie Forleo. I love her for that one.
Yes.
That is like my go-to like mantra. Awesome. Okay, well, I know you have to go, so we'll
Yes.
wrap it up. Where can listeners find you, and are there any resources that you would like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So Facebook, Hampton Wealth Management, and then online hamptonwm.com. It's spelled like the Hampton Hotel, no relation to that. But I do give like a lot of blog posts, resources, cheat sheets, checklists, because like I said earlier, like a lot of the population just really needs some good education. And then to become a client, a financial planning engagement or investment management engagement, you can read more about that on the website. But then I offer, of course, more of those resources to clients as well to help support them and continue to educate them as well.
Okay, awesome. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much for coming on today, Melissa. I loved
yeah,
hearing about your story and the story about your son, and I'm so happy to hear that ending and that everything is okay and that he's alive and well today. And I
yeah.
think it
Thank you
just
so much.
is good for people to hear that miracles can happen
I
too.
hope so. I hope
Yes.
so. I mean, I've um, not shared this story until recently, but people need to hear the
Yes.
positive outcome and they need to hear, what's possible. So, yeah,
Yeah.
thank
And
you. Thanks
yeah.
for like, yeah, allowing me to share.
Oh my
Absolutely.
God, I love it. That's what this is for. That's what this platform is for people to share their stories and inspire other people and give them hope. So, thank you for being that example
Yeah,
of
thanks
what's
so much.
possible.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tanya. All
All
right.
right, well, I'll let you go enjoy your massage.
Okay, thanks so much. Yes,
All
take
right,
care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
bye.